or thank the town for making this facility available and for the help that they've given us to put this together. I really appreciate all that. Appreciate the candidates for taking time out of their schedules to put their questions together. We send out a list of 7 questions for each of them to consider, so they've had a little homework to do, and I just really appreciate them and the time and the effort that they've put forth. And appreciate the public for getting the word out and coming and being knowledgeable about who you're going to vote for. So tonight we've got a board on Renee Green, Nicole Ferguson, and Brent Price. And Brent will be our timekeeper. Nicole and Renee will ask the questions and kind of supervise what's going on. So what we'll do is we'll start by having them ask the candidates questions. And when that part is over, then we'll open it up to the public. And what we'd like to do when we open it up to the public is please come to this pulpit, state your name, and this will be for all those that are residents of Charleston. And you'll be able to ask a specific candidate a question, or you can ask all of them a specific or a general question. And then if they want to respond to it, they can. And Brent will be the timekeeper. We'll have 1 minute to ask the questions, and they'll have 2 minutes to respond to them. So have fun tonight and get to know each other. And I am anxious when you come up here and state your name that each of us can get to know you too. So just welcome to be part of Charleston. Thank you.
Okay, first we wanted to start with an introduction of each candidate. So if you will state your name, you'll have 5 minutes tops to do an introduction, and we'll just kind of work down the row. If you'll tell what position you're running for, and then give the audience an intro. Brenda, we'll start with you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm certainly glad to see such a great turnout tonight. This is really something. We've never done this before because we really haven't had that many people concerned about our town. We feel that this is really good for all of us. I am the mayor. I am running for the mayor. I have been the mayor for 8 years. I have lived here in Charleston for 53 years. I was also on the town board for 8 years before I went into the mayor, so I knew what I was getting into when I went into it. I feel that this town is part of my heart. I want to do what's best for the town, what's best for the people. As we look around, we have to realize that government don't work fast. We all know that. So I just want everyone to remember that we are here to make sure that everything is good for our town. And I think the other 2 candidates feel the same way. We want what's best for this town. I am married. I have been married for 3 years. Before that, I was married 10 years and I lost my husband. Before that, I was married 16 years and I lost him. I'm just glad to be here and to be in this small town where it's wonderful. We can be friends, we can be neighbors, and we love it. Thank you.
Kind of a clunky microphone here. I wonder who set that up. Anyways, my name's Sean Taylor. I grew up out in Duchesne County. My family homesteaded out there in the Talmadge area. And my great-great-grandpa Rust lived out there. And my wife and I are actually lucky enough to own part of the old homestead. And I grew up in Utah, which is in between Duchesne and Tabiona. I say it's kind of a lot like Charleston because nobody knows where Charleston is and nobody has any idea where Utah is either. So There you go. Went to high school in Duchesne, and after high school, I served LDS Mission in California Ventura Mission. And I actually met some people there who introduced me to my wife, Addie, later down the road. Been married for 19 years. Have 4 children. My oldest is right here in the front. We got Ethan and April and Isaac and Aaron. After my mission, I moved down to Salt Lake. I went to school at Salt Lake Community College. I got a degree in general science. I studied a lot of psychology. I was working for a wilderness therapeutic program for troubled youth. I did that for about 6 years, and at the conclusion of that, I started an audiovisual company, and I currently still am the CEO of that. I've got 11 full-time employees. We do concerts, corporate events, things like that. And moved to Charleston about 9 years ago. And I used to always tell my wife that we should consider moving to the Heber Valley because it's just such a beautiful area up here. And it's kind of a little bit funny, but I always told her it was the right mix of ritzy and redneck. And so, I'm on the redneck side of town, but just a beautiful place up here. So when I first moved up here, I got fairly involved with the political apparatus. Prior to coming up here, I was involved on the precinct level down in Sandy. I was a county delegate down there. I was a state delegate for the GOP party down in Sandy. And when I moved up here, I got involved up here as well. And I'm currently the vice chair of the precinct here for Precinct 530. And prior to that, I served as the chair. And I've also been the state delegate for a term from Charleston. Outside of that, I've never held an elected office. That was kind of my first foray into it, was on the precinct level. And I've always kind of been involved with politics. I was on the Take Back Utah committee that was helping to keep RS 2477 roads open. And I'm currently on the National Federation of Independent Business State Legislative Council. There's basically a group of about 9 business owners that are involved with the state legislature as well as the national legislature. I was lucky enough to go back with them to Washington, D.C. twice last year to lobby for lower taxes for small business and also to repeal the Corporate Transparency Act. And so I've always kind of been on the sidelines of politics, and I wasn't really planning on running for mayor per se, but I wanted to see people involved, and I'm really glad and happy that there's so many people here at this event. It just makes me smile because we got so many people who are interested in the process. And we actually hosted a cottage meeting a couple months ago, and it was pretty well attended. We had about maybe 20 people there. And I was encouraging people to run even if they didn't necessarily want to do it per se, but they kind of had an inkling they wanted to do it. And so kind of doing what I was asking other people to do, I put in to run and decided to run for mayor so that we could have a primary and give people an opportunity to go campaign. And I was thinking about it, doing some soul searching, and I decided, I really love Brenda and I appreciate her service to the community, but she's been in leadership for a long time, and I didn't know Jan. I've got to know Jan. Jan's a really nice person. I really like her. She is really fresh to the community, and I just feel like that there needs to be people in the mayor seat that has a little bit more experience with the communities, lived here a little bit longer. But Jan is a great person. So anyway, so that was my motivation for running. And I feel like that there's a lot that I can bring. Charleston's a small rural community, kind of like where I grew up in. And I love this town, and I would love to be the mayor.
Thank you, Brenda, and thank you, Sean. I'm going to use the podium because I have prepared a presentation, and I'm going to stick to it because then I can do my 5 minutes perfectly. So here we go. Good evening. It is wonderful to see such a large turnout. My name is Jan Wilson, and I'm running for mayor of Charleston because, like you, I love this town. I believe in preserving its rural character, strengthening its sense of community, and leading with clarity and purpose during a time of change. Charleston is more than a place to live. It's a way of life. I grew up in a farming community in Pennsylvania where my grandfather worked at a large dairy, and generations of my family were farmers, shopkeepers, and teachers. I saw firsthand how unplanned growth slowly erased the rural charm. I've watched the same thing happen here in Heber Valley, and I don't want to see it happen in Charleston. I don't want us to see us lose our unique identity. That's why I'm running. I want to provide proactive leadership, not reactive responses. I am firmly against allowing dense subdivisions to be built in Charleston. Bringing sewer into residential areas would allow for this. So I say no to sewer, or having ordinances that would provide loopholes for developers and their lawyers to consider our town an easy target for exploiting. I will work hard to protect our open spaces, our farmland, and the values that make this town special. In 2017, my husband Jim and I decided to retire and left New York City because we found city life stressful. Jim had lived in Utah before, and we both knew we wanted to settle in a quiet, small town near his family in Provo and Orem. When we found Charleston, we immediately fell in love with the land, the people, and the sense of community, and made Charleston our forever home. From the day we arrived, I rolled up my sleeves and got involved. I spent the past 3 years volunteering for the Midway Crush Festival, and I took charge of this year's Charleston Pioneer Day auction, soliciting over 70 items from neighbors and local businesses. For over 3 years, I've organized monthly empty nester gatherings attended by up to 70 residents and growing. I bake, I host, I listen, and I work hard to bring people together. Professionally, I bring decades of executive leadership experience, and that's all in my bio there, so I'm going to move forward. As mayor, I would apply these same skills to Charleston. I will maximize the strengths of our town council members and enroll town volunteers with helpful expertise so they feel energized, productive, and appreciated. I would build strong partnerships with county and municipal service leaders. I would ensure smart, fiscally responsible decisions, improve communication so every resident feels informed and heard, unite neighbors, old and new, with shared goals and mutual respect. I want to share with all of you a little fun fact about me. I'm an identical twin, and I find it hard to be an I or a me because I was born a we and an us. That must be why I prefer working as a member of a team and bringing people together. Tonight, the candidates will all focus most on their comments on the big issues of the town, but I want to take a minute to talk about having fun. All my life, everywhere I've lived, I have developed the reputation for being the one who organizes and gathers people together. I've developed the reputation, I've already done it in the town with the Empty Nesters monthly gatherings, but I've also heard from so many of the younger families that they feel a lack of socialization and would like to have planned events. I'd love to see during the warm months organizing in the park weekly gatherings to have family picnics, movie nights, ice cream socials, and lawn games. We can specifically get the youth involved to help them gain some business experience with running the ice cream socials and using the revenues to do something special for the town. In the winter, we need to have a town tree lighting, and I envision getting all the horse riders together to carol around town on horseback, along with enough hay wagons that we can carry all the non-riders. We can plan the caroling route to stop at all our residents' homes that are homebound and sing their favorite carols to bring them some comfort and joy. If I'm elected mayor, I will personally visit every new homeowner and bring them a goodie basket that includes our town history book and a flyer listing all the town information of who's who to call, information on town activities, and how to receive information from the town in our social media links. And most importantly, I'll invite them to the town meetings and ask them how they may want to be involved. That would be one of the legacies I would love to leave, knowing that I facilitated the town coming together to have fun and create traditions filled with neighborly love. Together, we can make Charleston the village that would be the envy of the Wasatch Back. So let's come together as one community. Let's protect what makes Charleston the gem of the Heber Valley. Let's ensure our town remains a place where open space, friendships, and rural life are cherished, not paved over. Jim and I built our forever home here in 2021, and we are grateful every day for our neighbors, our friends, our family of 7 children and 8 grandchildren, and our little farm consisting of 2 trail horses, 2 mini donkeys, and 1 very energetic Aussie doodle. This is our home, and I'm ready to serve our town with everything I have. Thank you.
This is on. I'm just going to say the same thing. Thank you for being here. I just wish this many people were coming to town council. If everybody knew what was going on at town council, everybody wouldn't be wound up all the time. They'd understand the issues, they'd understand where we're going, they'd understand what's happening. Just thank you for being here tonight, and please come every month, every Thursday, the first Thursday, 7 o'clock, same time, same place, same channel. Anyway, I'm Scott Solom. Tammy and I grew up in Murray, and Tammy grew up in Idaho. So our little, how'd we do that? We had an agreement that we would move somewhere out of town, but not too far, to Ryrie, Idaho, to grow up and raise our kids. We settled in Kaysville, lived there for 20 years, raised all our kids there. It started getting kind of crowded there, and we started looking for cleaner air, so we moved up here. My history is Murray High School. There's a whole list of things I could tell you about Murray High School. I won't. Went to Westminster College, graduated in aviation business, got an airline transport pilot license, flew for the airlines for 32 years, and also got my contractor's license, and so I do construction also. My main career was the airlines, and then construction kind of started getting busier and busier, and the airport and the new airport got kind of tough for time-wise, and so I gave up the aviation and just kind of finished out my career in construction. Anyway, I am on town council now. I'm running for town council for the next time, and we love being here. We've been here for 5 years, been on town council for almost the entire time that we've been here. And does anybody, I guess we're gonna have questions later.
Thanks, Scott. I'm Brenda Gemmel. I am running for town council. I have lived here for 19 years. What drew me here, I used to live in Montana for 11 years, very rural, built a log home with logs off the land, lived in rural Oregon. I'm a rural person with rural values. My background is very diverse. I've had small businesses that I've built from scratch. I've had 2 franchises. I sell franchises for a living. I love helping small business. I think there's some real opportunity to help people here have home-based businesses. Prior to my 19 years in franchising, I was 20 years in computer high tech, where I learned how to project manage budgets of 5 million and get things done. My core value is action is what makes things happen. And you can't wait. You need to do, you need to move. And sometimes you make mistakes, but you course correct, but you keep moving. I think our greatest asset is you and the other people that aren't here, to get them involved. I think the town council does the best, wonderful job they can, but I think they're overstretched. There's so many things we need to do in town. I think the formation of committees that take on tasks like beautification of Charleston, figuring out more revenue streams. I think there are so many smart people in Charleston that can be pulled together to help the town council. So if I'm not voted in, I would be on a committee and drive some actions. I was drawn here because I'm a skier. I love skiing. If I'm not working on my house and fixing up my house and making it pretty, I'm skiing or paddleboarding. I love the outdoors. That's what drew me here. And so I love the country way of life and what we have here, and intend to, keep it. And, but we'll get later to questions about what are the 3 things that I think are our main focus. And I'd love to talk more about that. Service, I'm in service to people. What I do for a living now is I help people build small businesses, and that is the backbone of America, right? Helping people build small businesses and grow revenue. And I'd love to be in service to town council and make things happen. My experience is I was on town council, I think it was 18 years ago when I first moved here. I have been on Pioneer Day Committee, helping with vendors and food trucks and other little things, and would love to continue my service to the town.
My wife tells me I talk too loud, but I'm going to talk loud anyway. As I was putting my introduction together, I looked back 12 years and remembered when I was campaigning for mayor, president. At that time, John, you were president. I think they still called you president, didn't they? Town president? Pretty close. So my name is Bob Koalas, and I'm running for the open seat on the Charleston Town Council. I was reared in Heber City and attended local schools through graduation in 1960. I married my high school sweetheart and Charleston town girl, Myrna North. She was Mill and Grace North's daughter. We left the Valley to seek a career and to begin the Bob and Myrna Koalas family story. We resided in Salt Lake City, Rawlins, Wyoming, Pleasant Hill, and then Fairfield, California, to ultimately return home in 2010 to live in the house Myrna's dad built in 1936. And that's located right across south from the town park gate. So big garage, a little house. She's in hog heaven. My primary employment was as a microwave tech for American Telephone and Telegraph Company, then as a firefighter, hosman, engineer, and captain for Contra Costa County Consolidated Fire Protection District. Still not loud enough. Okay, boy, I know better. Okay, Myrna, who carried the greatest burden, blessed our family by being at home, an at-home mom, where she nurtured 7 children, a girl, a boy, and then 5 more girls. We currently have 21 grandchildren and 13 great-grandchildren, with 2 more on the way. One of my bullet points, I think, is the reason why I'm entering this race. My philosophy has always been it's better to be on the inside where your voice is more readily heard and you can have a direct influence on the decisions being made rather than trying to do it from the outside. I will be your advocate as I become a council member in Charleston Town Council.
I'm Michael Bauer. I've actually owned land since 2008. Oh, I'm still not coming in. Here we go. So we actually bought a lot in 2008. Had to go through an interview process to buy a lot in Charleston, but it was worth it. And made some great friends and family, and our wardens and our neighbors are the best. They're loving, and you're all here telling us that. So that's why we're here. Background, I'm small rural as well. I grew up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then moved to Evergreen, which was even smaller in Colorado. And so that's my background. And I met my wife over the phone working for the same company. And she lived in Utah. So I had to commute weekends to come see her in order to date. But one of the other things is our company was one of those newer companies that actually had internet service between the 2 companies, which didn't exist. So I actually was able to talk to her through there and cheated a little bit at work and sent her notes and so forth. So first internet, we always claim we're the first internet couple ever made, but yeah, that's all right. But I moved here, it's 36 years now. The reason why we can tell this is because my daughter was born exactly 11 months right after we were married. And so that's a story to have. But I was drawn here. I know when I came here and looked at these lots, I was blessed. I couldn't tell you. I was blessed. And that's why I'm here today. I've been traveling for 48 weeks a year most of my career. And I deal with government clients. And it's, if some of you got my bio, I have been dealing with government clients for a long time, either contractors that take care of the government or actually working directly for government agencies. I implement software, and I tell you, we're small potatoes. No offense, but we are. Because the government and federal government regulations are far harder to deal with, and every implementation I do, we have to meet those. So we have to listen to the client, just like we need to listen to the town. And that's what's important here. We need town participants. We need all of you to show up, because without that, we're not sure we're on the right track. And you're here today testifying that. You are saying, I want to participate. And I appreciate y'all coming. Same thing everybody's been saying here. We need you. We need you to show up to the town. I actually made phone calls before we even came up with people for even signing up. Besides me wanting to serve you, there was others we talked to and said, hey, can you serve? And it's because we know there's a lot of you out there that can help us. So that's a very key point in what we need to do. We have a lot ahead of us in growth to think about, and all of you are here because you know that. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate you're here. And thank you for listening, and enjoy this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I'm Mark Mayer. I've lived here almost 54 years. My wife and I are fifth generations. We built our house here 23 years ago. Our son's our sixth generation. He's over belling hay right now on her family farm. I've loved Charleston. I want to keep Charleston the same. That's why I run for the town board. I'm current board member now, but I'll fight for all you guys' needs. For what we need, I like to keep it small. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for questions. First of all, my name is Renee Green, and I just want to thank Scott Keller for planning this, even the questions, and for all the work that he's done to bring us together for the first time ever in Charleston for a candidate night. So thank you so much. Okay, you won't be surprised by the first question. What are your views on adding sewer to Charleston, and how would that impact your views on zoning for the township? We'll start with Brenda.
Renee, can you read that one more time? It's not on my list.
Sure. So what are your views on adding sewer to Charleston, and how would that impact your views on zoning for the township?
Okay. As far as sewer goes for Charleston, I do not want sewer in Charleston. I never have wanted sewer in Charleston. That has been one of the big things that we have had, big concerns. I did work to get Heber City to bring sewer down to 3,000 South, but only to 3,000 South. And if it does come to 3,000 South, it will never be big enough to come into Charleston. If the FDA comes in and says that we have to have sewer, then it will have to come in a different direction than where it's coming from that. I feel that we have kind of gone off on the commercial property up on 189, which would, the zoning up there, if they went into commercial, would change. I don't want a lot of rooftops. I want commercial property, retail property that will bring revenue into our town. I would rather keep our commercial and that on the outside of our town than bring it into our town. I think we want to keep our town rural. And I think that we all agree that that's what we need to do. So just remember that. Thank you.
So same question. So the sewer discussion's been going on for a long time. Right now, we have an agreement with Twin Creek Sewer to put sewer from Charleston down over to there. And we have an agreement to put sewer over into the sewer plant, right? So I called up a bunch of people. I talked to some people from the health department, and I just asked them, so what's the logistics of sewer here in Charleston? And number one, do we want it? I don't know if we really want it. The problem is we can't have certain kinds of commercial if we don't have sewer. But here's the problem. If we have sewer, it will bring high-density residential, period. So you look at this for commercial buildings, for the Olympics, for the town in general. So number one, I called and had a conversation with the CEO of the Olympic Committee, with Brad on the state level. He says the Olympics have no plans at all for anything with sewer in Charleston, so that's out. So sewer for the town in general, we would need to have the appropriate regulations on anything that happens here. And before we get into any decisions, we need to vet it out, even for commercial, because if it comes in for commercial, it comes in for residential. All three of those are inseparably connected. So we need to be very careful how we proceed in that regard. That being said, I want all the options on the table. I want to know what the repercussions are, what the density would potentially look like if we did let sewer come down for commercial, because once again, commercial sewer equals density. And we just have to ask ourselves the question of, is that commercial infrastructure worth it enough for us to justify risking high density coming into Charleston? So I want all the options on the table, and I want to know the appropriate information.
The other day, I just received the Sotheby's magazine for Summit County about the real estate, and there was a full-page ad here that basically says that, welcome to Park City and Wasatch back. And they go on to say, where alpine vistas meet pastoral farmland and vibrant western towns connect with world-class recreation. Then they go on to talk about, experience the timeless charm of Midway, Heber, and Camas, where working farms and ranches keep the founding spirit of Utah alive. And they go on to mention the Park City and Sundance, as well as Deer Valley. So they're coming for us. They're putting full-page ads in multi-million-dollar magazines with real estate that they're promoting, our properties here. And if you take a look around and you look up at the Mayflower, the minimum housing cost is $9 million, and they're just expanding all over the hills up into Camas. I looked at the pricing for land, and you can get Camas less than an acre for $3 million, 2 acres for $1.25 million, 5 acres for $2.65, Midway, an acre, $800,000. It's just, the bottom line is this. All of our property values and anyone who owns land, it's just appreciating like crazy. It's actually more than before the real estate bubble burst in 2008. So it's just zooming, and people are going to be coming very aggressively after those of you who own land, and they're going to want to make the biggest buck for it. And so my time. So what I wanted to say was that my friend Lisa, who came here, she's one of my writing buddies, her brother works for a international real estate developers, and he did a study, and they said that basically the Heber Valley per capita development is greater than Dubai, Saudi Arabia, which is the 18th richest country in the world. So it's just happening here, and that's where we all need to make sure the ordinances are in place and that we do the things now to prevent from our city starting to look like a little subdivision from Ivory Homes. Thank you.
We've been talking about, is sewer coming, is sewer not coming, ever since I've been on the town council. And so thank you for being here to understand what we're up against with this. Here's what's really happening with what's been approved so far, and I'm glad that we get to just air this out. The sewer's been approved down 3,000 for that 99 acres we're talking about. That 99 acres is not annexed into Charleston yet. So there's a lot of discussion. Are we going to annex that in? Or are we not going to annex it in? Not going to annex it in. In my world of construction for my whole life, if we don't own a piece of property or if we don't control some kind of a piece of property, then we need to just be really quiet about what happens with that piece of property. If we don't work with the people on those 99 acres to come up with the very best program that we can, then they will annex into Heber. They've already applied and petitioned for it. Now we get the choice if we're going to work with them or not going to work with them first. If we don't work with them, they will go to Heber. Heber will bring the sewer to them, and Heber will help them decide what's best for in front of Charleston. If we work with them, then we get to come up with a program that we think is best. And I've said this, I don't know how many times I've said it. It's not going to be perfect for Charleston. It's not going to be perfect for the developers that own that property. It's going to be better for Charleston than it is if we just allow the developers and Heber to decide what's best for in front of Charleston. And that's really kind of what we've been up against the whole time. My opinion is yes, we should work with them on that piece of parcel, not bring it down any further into Charleston. But if we can come up with a better plan, but we really have to do it. We've got to get going on it and work with them or cut them free. We have those two choices. And that needs to happen really, really quick.
Yeah, I'm with Scott. It's a matter of having a part in our destiny and understanding what the repercussions are. As you know, Sean said, we really have to understand our choices and as a town come together and figure out what is it that we want, right? I don't believe the commercial sewer is necessarily a bad thing. It's not perfect, but there are some pluses. There could be revenue for this town, which is a huge problem. That's, in my opinion, you know, we're running on a super tight budget. And do we have surplus for infrastructure? No. Do we maintain this town optimally? Not so much. So revenue is part of that equation and needs to be factored in.
I don't have any opposition about the development along the highway. I think that any business or any residents that are put there will benefit us to some degree. We know residential doesn't really make the town float, and the businesses that go there will be somewhat insignificant in the tax revenue we get. What I am concerned about is the contract between Charleston and Heber City and Twin Creeks that is placing a noose around our neck. So when the future comes and Heber needs a rebuild of their sewer, that noose is going to tighten and we're going to have to reach into our pockets and pay for those. We will be a part of the Heber sewer system. Let the development happen. Let the homes be built and the businesses be built, but let the responsibility rest on the shoulders of the developers. Charleston is not in the sewer business. Thank you.
Well, as you can tell, our group is about sewer, and our biggest issue, we have actually three big issues. We have sewer, water, we have growth, and we have to deal with all three. We can't just address one, we need to address all three at once. Because without that, we shouldn't be allowing building, we shouldn't be allowing anything until we have all three of those in place, making sure we're covered no matter what. One of the things that we saw in the contracts was a special service district. If we're really going to do the sewer, we have to set that land as special service district. Our biggest problem, like Scott and everybody's brought up, is they're still not annexed in our town. So we can't even declare them as part of this special service district until that happens. But the good part about that contract is we have the right still to negotiate or walk away. So our question is how do we answer that? How do we answer the growth? And how do we take care of that contract? Because that contract is not in our favor. And I think it's been published a lot. Everybody's aware that that contract holds us liable as a city. If we put on one sewer thing, one person gets on, we're liable for any extra costs. So if anything happens and we don't get anybody else on, their little portion is all they pay. We make up the difference. That is a concern. That's why the contract has to be changed. That's why it's been brought up several times, because we need to set the sewer service district aside. And everybody's right. If we don't grow and we don't create that as retail with very minimum residential, and I mean low density residential, we have that right. And real quick is that even if we do sewer, the state says we can only go down to 1 acre unless we go back to the state and request to go lower than 1 acre. So we need to check those facts. And moving on.
Everybody's kind of on the same. I'd like to not have the sewer down here, but I want to work with them people up there to where we can control it. But I don't want the town to be responsible for what has been under contract right now. I think we need to go in renegotiation with Heber City. That's my perspective.
Okay, next question. We'll start with Sean this time so we can kind of rotate through who gets to answer first. Charleston has limited revenue to run the township. What ideas do you have to finance the township? Do we leave it as is, or do we have methods to increase the revenue? And what would those methods look like?
So I love small business. Like I started my business in my home in Sandy, and Sandy was actually a pretty business-friendly place, and they didn't hassle me too much about starting my business with my box trucks and my vans and my things in my yard. I was able to get that started, and I think that with Charleston, we need to relook at the cottage industries, and we need to see if there's some that can generate tax revenue. When I first moved up here and I started to get involved with the town passed some restrictive small business ordinances, and I was absolutely furious with them going through. Like the last meeting where they voted on it, I actually just got up and walked out of the meeting because I felt like nobody would listen to anything that I had to say, and that's honestly part of the reason why I'm standing up here today. I would love to see those ordinances revisited and edited so that it does make it a friendly place to have cottage industries. And this kind of goes back to the sewer too, guys, because I asked Terry with the health department if we could still do the gas station or anything like that, not having sewer, and he said absolutely not. Okay, so we need to ask ourselves, what kind of industries do we want? Because you want an industry that's going to generate tax revenue, that sells business to consumer, and I think that like entertaining cottage industries that drop ship to consumers, we would collect tax revenue from that. But keep in mind, Charleston only gets 1% sales tax on stuff. So if you sell, $10 million worth of product, you're only going to see a small portion of tax revenue. And our current biggest source of tax revenue is Staker Parson. And we have a lot of eggs in that one basket. So I just want to see the ordinances revisited. I want to see our income diversified so that we're bringing it in from multiple sources. And I want to see Charleston be a business-friendly place. And kind of going with Jan's idea, like I would love to see more events that bring food trucks that generate sales tax revenue. All these things can happen together.
I think the goal up here is for us all not to be repetitive because we all agree on so much. And that's what's so wonderful is that the town is coming together, we're sharing information, and we're trying to make decisions that benefit everybody. So I think we're just building as we go down the line. But one of the things I was pretty intrigued by, at the June meeting, Dallin Kocher, who is the Executive Director of Economic Development for Heber Valley, made a presentation about a possible economic development grant. And he told me that I am the only person who reached back out and followed up on that conversation with him. And he's pretty confident that we could put together a really competitive grant for $600,000. I don't want to get into all the detail about it, but the bottom line is Brenda Gimbel and I have been talking a lot about, again, forming small committees. Like, I'd love to work with Brenda and anyone else who wants to work together to look at these grants and see if we can take advantage of that kind of money. So again, all ideas are welcome. And I was also talking to another neighbor who has experience in how towns are allocated revenue from property taxes, and he feels adamant about the fact that we are not getting our fair share. So I can't say anything more than that, but the bottom line is, let's get a committee together and look at that, because our property taxes are just going to keep going up because of the fact that the appreciation of our property is going up, and it's a fixed percentage. And so we want to make sure that we're getting that fair share of our allocation. And so these are all things, again, let's look at the expertise that's available in our community and see what we can do to bring revenue forward. And I loved your idea, son.
Thank you. Sales tax are a little bit tough because industrial doesn't bring in sales tax. So it would be wonderful, to be honest with you, in the 99 acres somehow, if we could not affect somewhere, to get a hotel. Hotels really bring in the taxes to the communities. That's one of our best ways. Personally, I think another thing, and I totally agree with Jan on the deal, that we're not getting our fair share of property taxes. I don't know how much you guys are paying for property tax, but it feels like we're playing plenty, without enough of it coming back to Charleston. That's an avenue we got to work. But I think there's also another avenue that we can work with Charleston, is we've got to be a little more responsible about how we spend our money, in my opinion. And so since I've been in town council, I've really come to really watch a lot of governments and how they act and how they work. And it starts to feel to me like every government entity is literally spending most of their effort and time on how to bleed the community dry of their money. And I think we just need to be more responsible about how we spend ours and quit trying to find ways, not spend all of our efforts on how to find ways to get more, but to be a little bit more careful about how we spend what's already coming in.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what's been said. I think the premise is there's no silver bullet. And if you rely on one entity, something can change and take that away. So it's very important to diversify. The first step in finding sources of revenue is to take stock of your assets. We have a town hall that's rentable. We have a park. We have land holdings. We have annexation opportunities. We have cottage industries. All of that inventory needs to be looked at, and then what you do is you compare that to the benefit or the deficit that how it would affect the town, right? And you come up with priorities, and again, a committee that's focused on that can really help bring lots of information to the town council and to the mayor for good and healthy decisions for the town.
I agree with the last two candidates. We have Staker Parsons, Euclid Timber Frame, and those are our two benefactors to keep the city alive. What we need is one more just like one of those, but we have neither the property nor the water, nor do I feel that if we develop industry and businesses down 189, will we ever meet that? So what's the solution? Live within our budget. The budget has maintained us quite well over the years. And if we're very careful in our spending and make sure that we get 500 or anything over 500, we get 3 bids, and just we're going to have to think at every step and at every expense, is this necessary? How much is it going to cost us? And should we proceed or should we pass it on? I think our budget will sustain us. I'm not sure that we'll be able to gain any great revenue beyond our budget.
I'm agreeing so far with a lot of what was said about growth and about sewer and all this other, but our biggest issue is, they're right, our tax levy doesn't change. We've only increased taxes once in multiple years. What tax levy means is as property goes up, they readjust the proportion of percentage to give us the same money. So every year we're still getting the same money. If the property goes down, our taxes go up more for us because, again, they want to keep the budget as is. That's our levy. That's the taxes we have to go in. We are not growing in a factor of where we should be. We're actually less than the county. Our levy is the less. And we're a small town, so we don't have a lot of property taxes being gathered within this town. So we really need to look at how we're going to grow. And one of those pieces, like they brought up, was our taxes. We're not keeping it up. We have a limited budget, and it would stay limited, and we would have to increase as we grow. We have no choice. We have to change the levies. But we know that if we turn some of it to commercial and be smart about our retail, because look at Heber. Look at how many places are still standing open because they're not able to get them rented. That's a clear sign. They even got other property up for sale because they're not even building the units because they're afraid nobody's coming. So we got to be smart about our retail. The hotel is smart. We might have to do a stable big box if you want more revenue. And that's the key. Revenue helps us grow. But we still got to keep it to the 99 acres because we don't want it involved in our residential in our town area. Even if we allow some residential up there, we need to make sure that residential is in our area and kept apart from our retail area.
To generate revenue, we must thoughtfully develop the right commercial infrastructure while keeping our community informed and involved. I'll explore grants, funding, opportunities to support various projects, ensuring that we will build a suitable financial future for Charleston.
Okay, as far as revenue is concerned, this we do need is revenue. Our budget has been raising every year for the last 8 years. We have never gone over budget. We are very conscientious about what we spend our money on, and we are very concerned about where that money goes. If any of you knows anything about a home budget, this is nothing like a home budget, okay? Whatever money comes in, you have to spend. Your budget has to meet the money that's coming in. People don't realize that. Yes, we have an account for the cemetery that we can put money into from the cemetery. We have a general account we can put money into, but that budget has to balance, not only at the first of the year, but if we overspend somewhere, we take it from somewhere that we haven't overspent, it has to balance. The revenue, I think everybody here is on the same level. We need to have retail businesses, cottage, whatever is going to bring that in. So I feel that we are very concerned about the revenue part of this, but that's not the biggest part. Thank you.
Okay, we will move on. Let's start with Jan this time. This might be a bit redundant, but what do you see as the 3 most pressing issues in Charleston? How would you approach these issues?
I agree, we're getting redundant, but again, the three issues to me. Number one, this is so beautiful to see so many of you here tonight, because when I first started going to meetings, there was like 6 people, and most of them were the spouses of the councilmen. So here we have the town coming out, and everyone's wanting to hear what's going on and get involved and get everyone on the same page. So number one, I felt was communication, and I think it's certainly improving, and I think it's great. So we've talked about budget, we talked about sewer. I mean, they're kind of, I don't think there's anything too new to talk about. So.
Maybe what would your top 3, like 1, 2, 3?
Well,
Like how would you rate the issues?
well, again, they're all this, yeah, if the one, it falls into the other. I think we're kind of redundant on this question, to be honest. Does anyone?
I'll take my turn if you want. I think, yeah, we've talked about some of them that are really probably the top pressing issues. I appreciate Jan following up, because there's $600,000 that we probably need to see if we can get funneled into Charleston. Now, there are strings with that, right? So we have to be really careful about what we do and what it would cost us to get that $600,000. Would it be good for us to get a new water tank with $600,000 that we could probably work towards with the Olympics that's coming, and work with the Olympic Committee to see if the federal government will give us more? There's paths that we can take. That's number one. Number two is, I personally, I don't know, I just like things really nice. I feel like there's a lot of improvement we can do in Charleston as far as maintenance is concerned. I feel like a lot of our street signs are falling over. I feel like we could be trimming the edges of our roads. I just feel like there's a lot of maintenance that could happen in Charleston that we're fighting for to try and get done, but it's hard to get it done. And I think that's probably the one that I really want to see worked on. And really, those are the biggest ones for me.
I'll follow suit. I think revenue generation, pretty much everything starts with that, right? You can't fix things, maintain things, beautify things if you don't have enough money. So that would be key. I think helping the town council and the mayor with bandwidth, with smarts, getting the community really involved, not just showing up at meetings, but actually working, taking action to help with projects. I think that is something we can leverage the town. I think communication is key. This is one way. Modern methods, email, Zoom, newsletters, other ways to get those that are not here involved. I think that is key. I think we have a fantastic opportunity with the coming general plan that's coming up to really make it, we've got a grant for that, right? We're kicking in a little money. We're going to spend a lot of time and effort on a general plan that lets the community get involved in what do we want Charleston to look like in the future. And I think that's a great opportunity to come together.
I'm going to combine 4 and 5, pressing issues and improvements. I don't think Charleston at this point in time needs any improvements, but we have some pressing issues. And I'd like to highlight 3 of them. We have made great investment in our community, in buildings, in roads, and in other things that makes Charleston comfortable. I feel that first, probably one of the most important is at 3000 South, the shoulder on the road. We've got our roads in perfect shape, except the shoulder is down about 3 inches. It needs to have the shoulder put back in, or we're going to lose that side with both sides of the road. And we've got to preserve our investment, so we're going to have to spend money on that. Bob? The second one is the monument up at...
Bob, put your mic up.
Oh, you couldn't hear me holler? No. Okay, the second one is the monument up on the highway. It is now tipping over against the green electrical box. And I think, again, to preserve our investment, that monument needs to be brought up vertical. We need to sink a good strong post down in cement. And another perk would be to put the reflective sign from UDOT on that post so that it's not in front of the monument. The next thing of great importance is our website. It's been tough for our clerk recorder to get things in. It's been tough for me and probably you as viewers to find things. I've looked at Daniel's website, and it's simple, easy input, easy output. I think we ought to get that for our clerk recorder, a new website. Thank you.
Well, like everybody, most of our discussions have been around water, sewer, and our growth. Those were my top three because at one time that's our biggest concern right now is our growth, our water, and our sewer. And we're right. If we are going to do that, that's the only way we're going to get any more revenue. So those are the things as committees and talking about it and getting those things straightened around, because with that annexation comes all the zonings and the requirements and all that. My opinion is we could annex them in, just flat annex them in with no other than agreement. You're annexed and and all zonings will be determined if you want to go that route. But the other piece is if they want to annex now, we can't let them dictate to us on those agreements. And that's a big concern. So if we're going to deal with those three subjects, we have to be right going forward when we go to talk to these people. So as groups and as they brought up about committees, you're important to us to talk about those things because we have to make sure all those zonings and those requirements on how to build and so forth and what we want to see in that area be right. We can't afford it anymore without that happening. We can't afford our contractors to tell us how they want it. We need to tell them how we want it.
I propose establishing a water board committee to facilitate collaboration among different entities. This will help us address our water needs and work together as a community we all envision. As our county grows, we are at a crossroads. It's crucial to be delegate and thoughtful about how we want Charleston to develop in the future generations. I will advocate smart growth and maintain our town's unique character.
I feel like Jan did. This is really redundant, so I'm going to go somewhere else. I've got 2 minutes, right? You know, this is really hard to stand up here and listen to other people that are very well informed, are very knowledgeable, but they really don't understand what's going on. We do have signs that's tipped over. We've had trouble getting signs to fix them. When you bend one of them poles, you have to put a new pole in. You just can't straighten it. We have got them, and our maintenance guy is doing that every day now. We only have one maintenance guy. He can only do so much every day. And he has been out doing that. We do have the stuff now, and he has been out doing that, okay? Another thing is that we can get a grant, and I think that's a good idea. But most of the time when you get a grant, you have to put 30% of your matching money into that grant. So that's not bad, we can do that. And as far as the shoulders of the road, that's being looked at right now. I want you to know that we've been in touch with our engineer and we're looking at that problem right now. So, thank you.
So, in answer to this question, which, real quick, if everybody holds their mic up closer, it's way louder, I'm just saying. So years ago, during COVID, I started live streaming the town meetings because I believed that transparency, openness, and communication was important. And I streamed the meetings for, I don't know, maybe a year. I did a handful of meetings. I did the town meetings and the planning commission meetings. And I got a lot of pushback, honestly, guys, from the town board themselves, and it really frustrated me. Like, at one point, I was told I wasn't allowed to film inside the chambers. I had to set my camera up out in the hall and zoom in to be able to film the meetings, and it was really embarrassing. One thing that I'm very passionate about is appropriate communication, and the live streams that we currently do are really not very good. That needs to be improved. I'm going to echo the website needs to be improved. Those are all very important things. We have one issue right now that is a 911 issue that we all need to be aware of. I had a phone call with Eric Rasband earlier today. He is the UDOT supervisor in charge of our median that's going to go all the way up the highway here. And I've talked to Brenda about it briefly. He needs to have a meeting right now with the town board, the current town board, and this needs to be addressed because that median is going to limit our ability to put commercial infrastructure in on the highway, the entire highway. So the public comment period has passed, but they're still willing to sit down and meet with the town. And so just know that we do have some issues here. I think that we must have all been asleep at the wheel because this issue needs to be addressed like stat. So there are definitely some things that we need to improve here in Charleston, and that UDOT issue is a 911, and we need to get that resolved before we get our new revised master plan for the town done. So 2 considerations for you to think about.
Okay, we'll work our way down the line. So Scott, you're first for this one. In your view, what does Charleston look like in 15 years in terms of growth and community?
I was so excited for the 3 improvements because I didn't get on that one, but I will skip down to that too. 3 improvements really quick are the cemetery. I've been pushing really hard for improvements at the cemetery. I feel like respecting those that have gone on before us is really important. So that's really a big one for me. And then the other improvements we've kind of talked about. 15 years from now, that's a really, really good question. I appreciate it being asked if you want the truth. Because as I think about this, I think about it pretty heavy. If every person does what I do and they go look in the mirror, they're not getting younger. I used to be this really good looking guy that put a pilot uniform on, and I'd go out there and it was like, catch me if you can. We're not getting younger. This town is not getting younger. And we have to think about what's going to happen in this town as everybody in this town ages and starts to pass on. Their properties are going to sell, and they're only going to sell to the multi-million-dollar people that can afford them. We need to really, really consider what we want Charleston to look like in 15 years, because it could be drastically different if we're not careful on how we handle it.
I think it's less important about what I think the town should look like in 15 years. I think we have an opportunity with the general plan for everybody here and those not here to decide that as a group and with their inputs. Of course, everybody here wants it to stay the same, but it can't. Growth happens, and we have to be smart about it. I think, if we have thriving commercial zones, if we're maximizing the assets of the town, if we're well maintained, if the town is a place we're proud of and beautiful, I think that in 15 years, if this were to triple in participants, that would be a great thing as well. Get more, community involvement, more community action. That would be my vision.
I think based on water, the community will be built out. We have currently new homes being built on 2-acre plots. We have new homes being built over footprint of old homes. We have new homes being built, big homes on multi-acres. And I've got a big house behind me, and it's I look back there, hardly ever know it, but it's big and it's on some acreage. I think this is the future of the town. It's going to grow like it's growing. We've got some good regulations and some good guidelines to keep it in order. We may have to change them if we need hotels to get revenue, but I just see it continuing as it is until all free land, some subdivisions, is filled. And I think it'll be done in an orderly way, because I think the town board and the town over the years has tried to put in place guidelines that will make that happen.
So the 15 years and the talk about master plan and all that really has to decide on what do we want the city to look like. You guys are going to determine that based on your zonings and all this other master plan. But one of the things I want to see is that I want to see the commercial inviting and not run down. I'd like to see our city look beautiful, as if it was picturesque, but we know that can't always happen. But we need to care, and those are the starting factors of it all. So you need to look at, how would you envision it? How would you like your city? How would you like your kids, if they're inheriting your land or even trying to move up here, how do you want them to see it? That 15 years is going to be a result of us. So we really have to think and plan. And I want it to be as inviting as it was when it brought me here. And I want it to be that way even in 15 years. So we need to think, and we need to pay attention, and we need your participation.
I'd like to just stay the way it is. It has been my whole life living here. There ain't been nothing wrong with it, and we need to just control how we do it, and we go forward from here forth.
Okay, my view is that I believe that our town should stay the same as it is. If we have growth, we need it on the outside of the town. We do have some acreage in town that can be and probably will be subdivisions but if we keep our regulations and our rules and our ordinances the way they are now, it will protect us as a small community. I think it's very important that we understand that we don't want hotels down on the lake. We don't want, we don't want them things here. Let's put them on the outside of town where they can be useful, we can get the revenue, and we can see the prosperity out there with the revenue coming to Charleston. Thank you.
So I think that if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So let's theorize that we don't annex in that property, that they want to have some commercial and some residential development. Let's say that it stays in the county, and let's say that they elect to bring sewer down to that point. Okay, so we have sewer there anyways, and we have no control of that process. So let's theorize that you have a developer that comes in, like Jan pointed out, that are biting at the bit to come into our beautiful community, and they have sewer 300 feet away. And the town of Charleston says, absolutely not, we're not going to allow you to hook into sewer. Do you think that those developers have deeper pockets with attorneys, or do you think Charleston does? I think that if you don't have a plan in place to manage this growth, it's going to be a huge deal. And sewer and development, it's like catching a fallen knife. You know what I mean? You're going to have to do it, and you might get cut. You just got to be really careful with it, because I don't want growth here. Currently with the regulations with the health department, you can only build on a 5-acre lot. If you have a hybrid system, you can build on a 2-acre lot. Most of Charleston is currently zoned RR1. So you can't really build on a 1-acre lot here in Charleston. So the question of what Charleston's going to look like in 15 years, it really is up to the town. It's up to everybody in this room who's going to make that decision. And we have a lot of important decisions that we need to make. But sitting back and saying, hey, we're going to just maintain the status quo and we're going to try to push developers out, it's not always going to work. They will sue us into the next life. And if we allow that sewer development to come down by not entertaining an annex, then the sewer will still be right next to Charleston and it will still be the bane of our existence. And those decisions will then be made by other people and not us. We don't want to relinquish our control.
I agree with all the points that were made today from the standpoint of keeping Charleston where there's residential and there's commercial on the outside. But one of the things that I'm going to just harp on here is that we are all residents of Charleston. Once you buy your home here, you're a resident. You are a member of the town. And what I would like to question is there's some people who think that if you haven't been here 30, 40, 50 years, then you're an outsider and that you're scary and that you're afraid of us. And that attitude can't continue because every time land turns over or house turns over, as you said, it's going to be a multimillionaire that can buy it because the land is getting so expensive and so are the houses. So we have to become welcoming. We have to stop this. We were here for a long time and therefore we don't accept you. And I've heard from so many people that when they came into Charleston 20 years ago, that they were given such a hard time, even 10 years ago and today. I mean, again, I've been told that new people you're afraid of us, that we're scary people. And that's a terrible attitude because we all love on each other and we can build this wonderful village feel here and build this legacy together because we are getting older. There aren't very many families that can afford to live here. And so we need to band together to try to be like a village to these young people and give them the memories that they deserve. And so I just want to say, break down the barriers, stop the us against them, come together like this, and let's solve the issues that are right in front of us. Because once the land is sold and developed or put in preservation, it's done. It's just done. And the 10-year plan is set in stone. And in 10 years from now, a lot of us are going to be residents up in the cemetery. We're not going to be residents in the town anymore. So I like to back Scott because Scott really wants us to beautify the cemetery. And I agree with that because I'd like to have a beautiful resting place. So come together, love on each other, and let's create a great town.
Okay.
Okay. How should Charleston approach protecting and celebrating the history of the township, as well as engaging in new development and growth in the community? Okay, let's do it. I agree. Yeah, totally agree. Okay, so what we do. Do you want to explain?
I mean, if we've covered them all, we can open up to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you do it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll open it up to the town now for individual questions. What we'd like is I'd like you to go to the podium, state your name, and you'll have 1 minute to ask the question. And you can either put it to the whole board or you can put it to an individual, and then they'll have 2 minutes to respond to it. And we don't want one person to go up and then ask each one individually. You get one turn and then we'll let somebody else have a turn. We'll open it up now.
My name is Tricia Wilkes, and I live on 3000 West, and the crossroad just south of us is 3000 South. I shouldn't even be up here because I live on 1 1/4 acres. But we were sold that land, and it was our investment way before COVID. And then we find out, yeah, it's 2 acres now. But that was our money for our retirement for the end. So we do, like Jan said, we have to be welcoming, even though I'm on an illegal lot. And I love how we're supposed to all come together. So I propose we have 3 mayors and 5 councilmen. My biggest concern is balancing the budget. I have to balance my budget. And yes, we would like straight line poles, but if the money's not there, then we can't do it. My dad grew up in the Depression, and if the money wasn't there, then you didn't do it. And we'd like to do it, but if the money's not there. And I'm also concerned.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Can I just tell one thing?
Your time is up.
My neighbor is Grace. She was born under the reservoir and her houses.
Hi, I am Lenny Casper. I'm from here in Charleston. I live over by the park over there. I have a question. This question is going to be directed to the 3 running for mayor. So I would like you to listen up to this, and you might feel it's redundant, but it's very important in what you say in this because it's going to reflect really what you're thinking about and where you're at. The question that I'd like you to think about is, always when you run a business, a town, or anything, they come up with a mission statement, what they feel, where they're directing, and how they're standing. I would like you to tell me if you was part of a committee to set a mission statement for Charleston, what would you say it?
My mission statement would be that we live in a beautiful area. We want to keep that a beautiful area, and we want to make sure that everyone, all the community, feels blessed to be in the town, and that's it.
So the question was a mission statement for the town, right? I mean, that's a good one. I would say something that encompasses the rural character of Charleston. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. I would say rural Charleston first, maybe, because I mean, when you stand on my back porch at my house, I can only see 2 lights off my back porch when I sit there, and I love that. So where I grew up in Utah, my grandpa lived about a 1/4 mile away, and my uncle lived about another 1/4 mile away. My grandpa owned about a mile in every direction around us, and it was great. The biggest thing I had to worry about was mountain lions. And so I don't know. I think that as far as the slogan goes, I would say, something that encompasses being local and keeping things rural.
I had actually made a Facebook post on Charleston's Facebook that addressed that, but I have a terrible memory when it comes to trying to remember mission statements and things like that. But basically, it has to do with the fact that we have beautiful farmlands, we're surrounded by mountains, and we butt up to a beautiful lake. And it's just this rural setting that's so gorgeous. And that's why we're all here. And I wake up and look at my view, and I look at cows, and I look at the mountains, Mount Timpanogos, and beautiful fields. That's why we all love this area, and we're so happy and feel blessed to live here. And then it's the community. It's such nice people who love on you. I call out Susie Larson, because Susie's the one who's like this beautiful heart of our town, and she's always encouraging everyone to love on each other and be kind to each other. And I come from big bad New York City. It wasn't a nice place to live. It was a tough and tumble place to work. And we just feel so relaxed and so blessed to live here. And we want to keep it like that. That's why we came here. And so again, everyone building community, putting together a legacy of that village feel where we all collectively help raise each other's kids and grandkids and each other and care about each other. It's just, let's keep that going. And so I hope that, Lenny, we've addressed your concerns, because we love this town, and we want to keep it this way.
I'm Trisha's neighbor, and I got Grace, Trisha, Cindy, who am I missing? Faye as neighbors. Now, how lucky am I? Yeah, I said Grace. Okay, so July 2nd, Jeremy Taylor presented a very interesting concept, and that is water reclamation treatment plants. Okay, so this is kind of a new thing to Utah. It actually started in Lake Tahoe. Small towns, villages, or big hotels that are in the rural have their own water treatment plants. They're designed, engineered, and installed for that project and that project only. Now, that would remedy a lot of this confusion about the commercial.
You'll have to direct your question. Your time's up.
Oh,
Who's your question to?
to the board or the candidates that they should entertain this idea in future planning.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I got a lot more to say.
Yeah, I would just open this up to the board. He kind of put it to the whole board, so anybody that has an opinion on this, feel free.
Lane, I think that was a good suggestion, and I think that might be a viable answer down the road, but we're still poor folk, and we don't have the money, and I don't think that we dare invest in something that big this early.
I actually love the idea too. And you're right, we don't invest in it as a town. We make the developers pay for it, maintain it. We give it 100% to them if they want to come and play. The glory of it is it keeps us a little separate from Midway Heber and anything that would happen there. So I think it's a great idea, and we're definitely entertaining it. So thank you for bringing that up as a question.
So I've researched this a little bit. My brother Jeremy works for a sewer company. My neighbor Trent works for the Heber Valley Special Services District. And I actually called down there and had a conversation with Jim, who runs the place, and just was talking crap with him, right? And we were discussing this idea, and it was looking at, the different options that there are. And that's kind of what I was getting at, is we need to have all of our options in front of us. When I was talking with Terry with the health department, he said, really, because one of the big concerns with sewer is they're going to force the residents to hook onto the sewer. And I said, well, whose decision is that? And he said, well, it's the Special Services District that's managing your system. So there are 3 Special Services District in the valley right now. There's Heber City Special Services District, there's Twin Rivers, and there's Jordanelle. And so you have 3 different sewer districts. So if Charleston was going to do anything in that regard, we'd have to create our own Special Sewer Service District in order to manage that. And maybe the developers could pay for it, the initial system or whatever, and the whole thing would be scalable. So there's a realistic chance that you could have your own sewer treatment facility for Charleston. And I don't know. I don't have the answers there. There is a state grant, $100,000 state grant to explore the concept for rural communities. Now, keep in mind, it is a grant that you may have to repay down the road. Like Brenda said, grants always come with strings attached. So you got to be careful with that. But there is a realistic opportunity here. And before we jump in bed with Heber into that quagmire, we just need to vet out all of our options, just like what you said. And we need to entertain if that is a good fit for our community. And at the end of the day, I love Charleston the way it is. Sewer brings density, and you've got to keep that in mind. You can't lose sight of that. So whatever we do, we need to be really careful and thoughtful in that process.
If I didn't use my 2 minutes, can I rebuttal really quick? The thing that's really neat about that 2-lane is we can actually mandate a system that only carries that much density. It eliminates the risk of having anybody try to tie onto it in the future. And that's what I love about the system. So yeah, we're looking at it.
and the governor is big on this. He come up and cut the ribbon and bring his checkbook. He really wants this to take shape.
Is there anyone else that has a question for the board? Wow, we thought we'd be here till midnight tonight.
It's not really session, but I'm Susie Larson, born and raised in Charleston. And I really like the idea of having committees, and that's really not a question, but I just want you guys to maybe think about, with our little mini earthquakes that we had this year and then in 2020, of our emergency plan and things like that. We have doctors, we have detectives, we have a lot of people in this valley that we could bring together, and I'd like to be on that committee too. So I just want, if anybody has any thoughts on what we could do back in the day, we had like a call line that people would call on each other or check on each other, and I don't know where that's gone or if we still have that in place. Thank you.
Okay, I'll speak on that. We do have a chairman for the emergency preparation board. He has been to meetings, and we're going to get some information here within a few weeks. And we are working on that as we speak. So, Mike is the chairperson on that. And so we are working on that.
Yeah, we do need volunteers because this committee that they're starting is for the whole valley. And that basic plan is to consider every city that's within the county and of course all the counties. So that emergency preparedness plan will start meetings here soon. And so those who would like to participate and mold that is very much welcome. I volunteered to be the chairman. I guess she's calling me chairman anyway. But I went to a major meeting last week about it, and it is important to our city that we get those ducks in a row. We can even grow it beyond that plan, but the basic plan is to cover all cities, and they got grant money because of that. So that's why you're going to be that whoever volunteers and wants to continue with helping with that, that is utmost important as one of the things they got to get done this year. So.
So Tricia Wilkes didn't get a chance to actually ask her question. I'd like to ask it for her. Charleston has many residents that are long-term and retired and may not have the income as property taxes continue to increase. What are your thoughts to help residents that are historical residents of Charleston?
I want to work with Renee to see if we can't get to the state legislature and mandate that a property tax is locked until you sell the home. But that's got to come from the state level. But that's the only way to protect every resident that's here, that they can stay here. And I'd love to find a path for that. And I know you guys have a better path than we do, but that guarantees it.
Hi, my name is Lori. You brought up some good points about rural, and I think the one thing about Charleston that everybody loves is not only just the view of the mountains, but the feeling, the vibe of being rural. So the question that I have, because we all know that big developers would really love to have Charleston because it's so beautiful, is if you were elected mayor, I would like to know what you have done to support rural communities, rural environments, rural anything in the state of Utah. Have you supported farmlands, anything that for, the state of Utah? What's your involvement and the background been?
I can answer that by saying yes. I think that rural Utah is very important. I have been, and I'm actively involved in a lot of the programs that going through the free space, that kind of stuff. So yes, I have been actively involved in that.
So, having never been elected to anything except the precinct level, I've lobbied for rural areas on the precinct level, I guess. When I went to Washington, D.C. this last year with the National Federation of Independent Business, I was able to sit there and stand with legislatures and say, hey, look, I represent a rural community. I'm a rural business person. I've been a member of the Heber Chamber of Commerce ever since I moved up here. I'm still a member of the South Valley Chamber of Commerce, and before that, I was on the Sandy Chamber of Commerce as an ambassador for a decade, but I'm getting off in the weeds here. So as far as initiatives that specifically support rural, it was kind of a feather in my hat that I did come from a rural area when I went to DC to talk to legislators, because they do take special notice and consideration for people that come from small areas like this. So hopefully that answers your question, Larry.
Well, as you all know, I'm new to this, and I'm very excited about being new to this because I'm learning a lot very quickly. And as I look around, I see at Midway that the Kohler Creamery, they put their whole land and their creamery into a preservation trust. And as you look up at Oakley's been really focused on open spaces, and they've been putting a bunch of their land into recreational open spaces too. And so one of the things I would do, again, is I bring people together, I gather information, I give people the information that they need to make considerations on what they want to do with their land. So again, I'm a true believer that you own your land, you can do what you want with it, you can keep it agricultural, you can develop it, you can sell it to a developer, or you can preserve it. But all of those options should be given to you. And I would like to bring together the experts to help our large landowners kind of look at preservation and think about giving us some open spaces to our town and preserving that legacy. So again, you don't have to have the immediate experience, Lori, but you have to have the ability and the desire to gather the people together, to gather the information, and to educate people so they can make good decisions.
Good evening. My name's Peggy McKenzie, and I have lived in Charleston for 75 years. And growing up, it was a lot different. As I grew up, I worked for the county assessor's office for 23 years. I'd just like Brenda to explain to these people, to our friends and our family, how the taxes work. How do they set that rate for Charleston to only collect that much money? And commercial is taxed different than a residential. If you live in your home, you're taxed at a different rate than if you don't live in your home. There's a lot of things to consider when you're setting the tax rate. Can you just explain that to us, how that works?
The tax rate, as it is explained to me, is if we go into a session and decide to raise our taxes, we can do that every year. We can raise our taxes every year. We've raised our taxes since the formation of Charleston exactly one time. And that was about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we raised our taxes. Was it before you? Okay, so maybe 7 years ago. It was after I became mayor. No, it was before I became mayor, so it was while Bob was still. Okay, anyway, we raised the taxes like very, very minimal, okay? Now that tax rate goes to the county, and as I understand it is we get a certain rate. I don't know, but anyway, that's what happens when we raise our taxes. Then we get them taxes back from the county on your tax notice, there'll be a line that says Charleston taxes. That's what we get back from the county.
So how it works is, Brenda will send in her budget to the county.
Right.
The county takes that and figures out what she needs to run the county. That goes to the state tax commission. The state tax commission are the ones who set our tax rate. It has nothing to do with Brenda, it has nothing to do with Beaver. It's the state tax commission that sets the rate. And they won't give her any more money than she actually needs to work. So we'll never have
$1 million. We'll never have.
There are many grants that are available.
Right. Right. Thank you, Peggy.
I'm going to sneak in here as a about 4 months I've been here. I married Peggy. And so I was on a city council in Ballard City for 12 years. And we were in a similar situation, small place. And we got some major grants from the county Economic Development Committee. And we didn't have to pay any money to matching monies or anything, but they came, and so I wondered if the county is in a position to, if you've approached the county at all for grant money and see if they could help with some of the economic development things.
Are you directing your question to someone from there?
Thanks, Ace. We really do. You mentioned that to me in my office the other day when we was talking, and we really need to look into that. I've been out of town, so I haven't had time to look at it, but that's something that I plan on looking into, is see what the county has.
Anyone else, the mayor, candidate who will want to answer?
Jana Brown, born and raised here in Charleston. The question to help with grants, they just hired a person at the Wasatch County building that will write grants and help with our different areas. So I know that they are now kind of talking to them about that, especially with the annexation. My question is, however, to all of the board members, one thing that you would change if you were to come into your office. Jan, you can start. So all of you. The whole panel.
I can.
Just one thing that you would change.
So she's asking that question to the whole panel. So anybody that would like to respond to that, you don't have to, but if you'd like to respond to that.
Okay. Yeah, Jana asked from each of us, what's one thing we would change? I would develop committees that can focus on tasks like grant writing, like generating different revenue streams, et cetera, because the bandwidth, of the mayor and council is limited. They're essentially volunteer positions. So, they have busy, active lives as well. So, and I think we have a duty as citizens to give back, right? And that should be a prideful thing that we accomplish something really great for the town. And I think it's a great way to get everybody involved. So I think that's the number one thing. And we can focus it on, like grant writing could be one of them, but, prioritize them. Maybe beautification of Charleston is further on down the list, kind of thing.
You were mentioning the person who heads the economic development, that's Dallin Kocher, who I had followed up with regarding the potential grant money. And I asked him, so what's the reputation of Charleston? What do people think of our town? And he said, just real quickly, sleepy, really sleepy and reactive, not proactive. So what I would change, the number one thing is being proactive and really getting ahead of these things and looking for every opportunity to make new relationships, to bond together, to work together. Brenda and I both signed up for the Heber Valley, it's the executive, the Leadership Academy. It's the Heber Valley Leadership Academy. And Susie said she was going to come do it too. And so basically they bring together a group of people that want to meet who the mover shakers are in Heber Valley. So you get to meet people from all the different departments, and then collectively the class picks a project and you work together to finish that project. And the most recent one that I went to, the ribbon cutting, was this map of the town of Heber. And it's a little history map, and it's also their businesses, and it's a cute little project, and everyone came together to do that. And before that, they put the splash pad in at the town hall, and before the other class beautified it with landscaping. So, again, look at an opportunity. We can meet new people, see if we can get Charleston featured, something maybe for our park, or maybe, again, I'd love to see safer sidewalks down 3000, a lane that you can take a horse down, a bike down, or walk down. It's very dangerous for people to be pedestrians down 3000. So anyway, lots of ideas, but being proactive, taking advantage of things.
Guess it's my turn next. So, there's a lot of things that I would change. Kind of going on to what was being said about the committees and stuff. I work in events, right? That's what I do for a living. And years ago, I brought a nonprofit group here to the town that had $500,000 from the state legislature earmarked to do concerts in rural Utah. And he came up and he did a presentation on how we could do free concerts for the town. Down in the park. We just needed to make the park available, or the town hall if we wanted to do a winter concert series. And the board said absolutely not. I had no idea why. I felt really embarrassed that I even brought them up here. And we worked with them doing audiovisual, and we helped them spend all that money in Fillmore and in Richfield and in Boulder and in Tabiona and in Duchesne and in Roosevelt. We did concerts all over the state of Utah, but none in Charleston. So I think the committee idea is great, and I kind of think like some of Jan's ideas as far as doing entertainment, you kind of look at the last question that we never answered about, protecting and celebrating the history of Charleston. One of the things that my family loves about this town is the Christmas party. And one thing I love about Brenda is she always lights up when you talk about the Christmas party. The Christmas party, the Halloween, doing those dinners and those togetherness events with the town, and the 24th of July. They're such great things. I just want to see 10 of them every year.
Okay. The most important thing that I think I would change is, I'm with Brenda, I think we need committees. I really do, and I'm really trying hard to do that. It's been really hard because when you ask somebody to do something, they always have an excuse. I found out with our town, I found that it's really hard to get committees together, but I'll tell you, if I get in mayor, I'll really try. Thank you.
I just said I really like the idea also. The one thing, and this is something nobody wants to hear, but at some point, the one thing that I think we're missing a little bit is a little bit of a younger crowd. And we don't have a lot of kids, we don't have a lot of teenagers, and I know they create a lot of trouble, but they're also a lot of fun, and they're also what's going to carry our future. So I don't know how to pull it off yet, but the one thing I would change is possibly finding a way that as we do replace some of our, elderly residents, that we find a way to get some younger families in this town so we can get some young blood pumping in this town a little bit.
going to reiterate one thing. We do have to be proactive, and that's the biggest change of all. We have to be proactive in everything we do and everything as a town to grow it correctly. And I'm just reiterating what others have said. And my opinion, I agree with what we have to do. Committees, whatever we have to do, but we have to get it right this time and keep it going.
Is there any final questions that anybody has for the board? If not, I would like to express my appreciation for the town to come out to this. It's been great to see this many people come out, and I hope that the future of the town is what the board has talked about, and in the future we can be more involved. And I just really appreciate each of you for coming out, and welcome to Charleston. If you're just new, and if you're old like me, still welcome to Charleston. Thank you.